This is the July 13th Public Works Committee meeting. I'm joined by Bernie Flynn and Lisa Dorsey. And item number 2, comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items not on the agenda. Anyone? Okay. Item number 3, consider accepting hourly rates for shade tree maintenance from Elite Tree Care for the remainder of 2021 and 2022.
Last November, we put out the request for proposal for the shade tree maintenance, and we had awarded it to Knight Brothers at that time for 2021. Unfortunately, they were not able to perform services to our satisfaction. They have a contract for PennDOT, so that's the primary client. They just couldn't service us in a timely manner. So we mutually agreed to terminate the contract, and we put it out for bid again. This time the low bidder was Elite Tree Care, and we did a weighted system this time. Rather than just get hourly rates, we have certain items that are certain services that are performed more often, so we kind of weighted the proposal based on that, and that's what the factor is on the next to the units there. So with the weighted cost, Elite Tree Care came in at the lowest hourly rates. So recommending that we award the contract to them for the remainder of 2021 and 2022.
Any questions? No. Comments? So that would be a 3-0 to proceed with that. Item number, or any comments from people in the audience? Questions? Item number 4, consider awarding the Taylor Run WWTP, a tertiary filtration system project bids for civil/mechanical and electrical for a combined low bid of $1,484,500.
Mike has laryngitis, so I'm here tonight.
Yeah, go.
Isn't that coincidence? Comes back from vacation and has laryngitis. What do you need to know?
Could you?
The actual project was, the pilot test was approved by council for test to removal out of the Taylor Run plan into Taylor Stream back in December of 19. The pilot test worked well with this system. So they came up with a draft and design. It has to be done and in place by November next year per DEP mandates with the permit. Last year, we were hoping to be a little farther forward than what it is, have it broken down to a little less money, but 2020 stuck everybody, and here we are. The bid was sent out. Actually, the filter system is more than just for aluminum. It's going to be put in, it's going to actually help out farther in the future with mandates, excuse me, from the DEP, where it will remove pedal suspended solids, aluminum, phosphorus, and help with settability, so there's less solids in it with fecal. So that would be the last one. So if something comes up in the future, we're already ahead of the game, being proactive with this. There was 2 bids put out. One was for civil and mechanical work. The second was for electrical work. Because they knew a lot of the companies, the mechanical and instructional, didn't have electricians involved, so they wanted to get a better price with just bringing electricians out, or at a company that did just the electrical, so that's why there was 2 bids for it. The one came in, the low bid of JEV Construction LLC came in at 1.3886. For the mechanical, and the electrical is Eastern Environmental Contractors, Inc. for $95,900.
So would we still award the contract to them this time?
Yeah, I believe there's 550 in this year. Next year, we'll have the remaining. I asked for it in capital.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because that was in 2019. I just couldn't remember exactly what we had still sitting in the kitty for that.
Right, and I believe Charlie, though our engineer, has been in contact with him and explained we had the 550 set for this year, so it's going to be time, order, and next year's all delivered and installed. And
Perfect. Yeah, that's the cost of owning your own wastewater treatment plant that, you don't see when you flush the toilet or open the sink. There's a lot of stuff underground that we don't pay attention to till it breaks, or we have to catch up with the environment, so. Got to do it.
Now, Ms. Dorsey? So that'd be a 3-0 to proceed with that. Any comments, questions from people in the audience? Okay. Going to go to item number 5, approve the resolution for authorizing the filing of a grant application for wastewater system upgrade capital program funds with the Chester County Department of Community Development, Community Revitalization Program.
Again, the wastewater department through the borough is looking to apply for a grant through CDC of the county to help pay for this project, but we'll submit the resolution after the deadline since the
Any questions or?
Questions?
Any questions or comments from people in the audience? So it'd be a 3-0 to approve that resolution. Item number 6, approve Keystone Alliance to perform a sewer tap fee study, $4,500.
We got a quote from Keystone Alliance. It's actually Dave Bush. He is the person who actually wrote the last one back in 2004. So our sewer tap fees for any contractors to hook into the sewer system hasn't been evaluated since 2004. So I'd like to get the study done to possibly update, raise, or see how the sewer tap fee figures with the borough. Helps with capital projects. What the sewer tap fee is when, as an example, Stein's project. Stein's with that, we can look at capital projects. Do we have to do anything? Plant or the collection system. With the way it is now, they'll look at it. The rate is from 2004, $2,332 per EDU. They could come back and say you can raise it 3%. No, you can't. 5%. So it's probably in the best interest for the borough to see what the rate. And the more That goes from not just huge developers, it goes to any property owner that wants to subdivide a lot or add a garage with a bed, add an EDU. This will be added to a charge to hook into the sewer system for the treatment of the sewage.
The 60 houses that Toll Brothers are going to be bringing online to go to Taylor Run, would they be affected by the
That letter and everything.
okay. Right.
Yes, the rate, if they increase the rate, now it's anything from when you see what it is and change it.
All right.
I have a question. Did I hear you say we haven't done this since 2004?
Correct.
How often should we be doing?
I believe, if it's not in here, I believe Dave was saying every 6 years they probably be looked at, I believe. Right.
Not do it because we didn't have it budgeted, or?
2 years ago. Brought in last year.
Okay, thank you. No other questions?
Are there any comments or questions from people at the meeting? Good. Good. Be a 3-0 to approve the Keystone Alliance for the PAT fee study. Thank you. Item number 7, discuss leasing options for replacing the 2007 street sweeper.
Talked about this last month, and since then, we had our 2007 street sweeper went down, requiring about $26,000 in repair. It was 2007, so really didn't see a good reason to repair that and throw that money into it with something that's probably doesn't have much more of a life. And the new street sweeper is going to cost just under $260,000. It's actually $257,708. Since then, our 2016 sweeper went down 3 weeks ago. So, in 3 weeks that we haven't swept any roads in the borough. So I mentioned last week that we were going to look at alternative ideas of finance, and one of the ideas that we came up with through a colleague of mine, another public works director in Bucks County, they do a tax-free, a tax-exempt lease to purchase on their equipment, and they put theirs out to bid to various banks to get a rate. So I went ahead and did that to see what type of rates we would get and what that might cost. I got 4 rates back from local banks here: TD Bank, Univest, S&T, and Fulton Bank. The lowest rate was at 2.85%. That would, and the way I sent the proposal out was for a 5-year lease period with quarterly payments, so 20 payments through that 5-year period. Going with that lowest rate of 2.85, the quarterly payment would be $13,775 roughly.
Thank you. I'm just curious, we should discuss this in finance too, I believe.
Yeah, under the finance as well. The second thought I had was, since the street sweeping helps with the stream protection, how much of the stream protection fee can we use to offset the 13,000 quarterly?
Well, I've been discussing that with Will Williams, and we're looking into that. We're seeing if there's any there's any money available this year to do something, and also for budgeting for next year. So we're looking into that.
So in the,
But
In
the
the
idea would be
meantime,
to put it in street protection.
yeah, yeah, in the meantime, the streets aren't getting cleaned,
Right.
and there's no way we can rent a machine.
Well, the machine runs about between $1,500 and $1,800 a day.
Okay, that's not an option.
So we are having the 2016 sweeper repaired. It's scheduled, we have a scheduled repairman coming out the end of this week. Hopefully it'll get repaired by then. The cost of that's going to be over $10,000, but can you get that done this week? That way at least we're up and running again in the streets.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable giving, at this time without sitting and thinking about it. I didn't realize that's the way it was going to run. It's like a lease purchase of a vehicle or whatever it is, right?
Right, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a lease, but with a dollar buyout at the end,
Right,
at the end of the 5 years.
yeah.
And talking to the representative from the company that sells the street sweeper, he said that the normal lifespan of a street sweeper is a rough 10 to 12 years. So 2007 is obviously past that.
Yeah, what's the warranty, when we buy a car or a truck or whatever, we get a bumper to bumper warranty on it for so long. During the lease, are they responsible for all repairs?
Well, the lease would be through the bank, so no, the bank wouldn't be responsible for it, but there is a warranty with it. And it's one of those warranties that, 2 years on this, 5 years on that, and I can give you the information.
Yeah.
That way you have it. I'll send you a copy of the spec sheet that I sent out, because I attached the actual spec sheet of when I sent out the request to the banks, I included the spec sheet for the actual sweeper, so they saw exactly what we would be looking at purchasing.
I think we need to chew on it just a little bit longer.
I like the concept. And if we're going to have the one machine repaired this week, then to me, it's not time sensitive. And that would give plenty of time to get more ducks in a
Until
row.
it breaks down again.
Yeah.
And I have the spec sheet here. I could read off it if you want me to real quick, but okay.
What was that figure again, that quarterly payment? What was that quarterly payment?
It was 13,775, let's call it.
Okay. Thank you.
Al, you said it's a 4-year lease? 5 years?
Okay. Item number 8, discuss charging a fee for bulk trash pickup. This is something that was suggested to us by a former member of council. And presently, we're essentially giving away the service. This might be a way of evening things up. We don't necessarily have a list of fees that have been recommended. I don't think there is one. Yeah, I don't have an attachment. Attachment.
Well, what Mr. Mannion did was he broke down weights and measures and pricing and what the other municipalities around us are doing versus what we've been doing. Each time we go to the landfill, we either pay or don't, or have a large fee that we have to pay the landfill in order to drop off the bulk items. For example, like mattresses and box springs and stuff like that. So it's, now, all I have is a letter that Mr. Mr. Mannion sent, that I thought he was going to be here tonight to, everyone.
So I'm looking at the email now, Mr. Flynn, and it says Radnor, $75 per pickup for up to 5 items that do not exceed 150 pounds. 25 supplemental charge for each additional 5 items. We also compared Phoenixville, Lower Marion, Media, Upper Darby, and Springfield.
I just wanted to, we have some numbers of, mattresses is one of the items that we are charged for. They charge $25 per mattress. And last year, we actually, in 2020, we were charged $2,450 for mattresses. So essentially, 100 mattresses we took over there. That was paid for with borough money, so. Just to give you an idea of the extent of how many we're taking.
I mean, I think it's worth a review. You know, I'm looking at Phoenixville now, it's $5 for small item, 15 for medium, and $25 for a large item, which I guess would be a mattress. We're just passing along the cost, right?
Right, exactly. I know right now, for instance, if you bought a new mattress, I think the mattress company would charge you $75 to take it away or more. So you're still getting it at a discount.
I think we should continue this discussion. And find out what some of the other municipalities are doing, even though it's
I think
here.
you need to also put in maybe a little bit more detail. When you look at other municipalities, you need to also understand if they're charging a trash collection fee already, and what's this additional fee for bulk items? They don't charge a fee like we do today. Will Williams was doing some sustainability project, and we were looking at actually the cost of what it actually cost the borough to provide trash service for a household. That average number may be, and that's maybe something addition for you to consider. It's a lot of money to pick up trash and pick it to the landfill. It's getting more and more expensive each year, obviously.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Jordan Norley. How would we bill for these fees and collect these fees?
Well, my thought is, and I'm just pulling this out of the air based on what I received from Mr. Mannion, what we received from Mr. Mannion, was that if you have a bulk item that you want picked up, you contact Kathy Brooks down at Public Works, tell her what you have. She'll tell you what it costs to pick it up. And the next, and you can pay, by credit card over the phone or whatever. And then the next big bulk pickup day, they'll swing by and just, pick it up and take it away. Because what's happening now is we're, as the director said, it's costing borough, quite a bit of money pick up these bulk items that we do. And the other side note is, because we have a lot of student rental areas where they leave and they leave it on the front step and go. At that point, the building and housing department the neighbors will complain. And the building and housing department will go there and, send a letter to the landlord. The landlord's responsible, for paying the fee or getting it out of the escrow from the kids. So it's pretty manageable. It's just that we're paying a whole lot of money, for back in the day where it didn't cost a lot of money to do anything. Now it costs a lot of money so.
And yesterday, Al and I in our meeting, we were also discussing relative to your question about, could be we could do that through the borough website to, make it a little bit easier rather than they could schedule there or they could pay there too. It's a thought. There's nothing etched in stone at this point.
Just to cover the cost of once we get the breakdown item of what the landfill charges us, that's the cost. And so it's basically a wash. The borough's just not eating large bulks of money a couple times a year, 4 times a year.
It makes sense. I mean, it's another drop in service, obviously, and there's a consideration there. I mean, I think it makes sense, but you're also taking consideration the staff time and administration it takes as well in order to administer this new fee program. Benefit.
Thank you. Anyone have any comments or questions? If you could give us your name and your
Dale
street
McClure,
address.
302 West Marshall Street.
Hi, Dale.
Ward 7. Is bulk trash included as part of the Public Works budget? Is it a line item? Consider it as when you do your preliminary budget for the.
So to answer your question, no.
What's that? So the answer is no.
No.
So you don't plan for it. Okay, so if you elect to do this, why would we have to wait for a bulk day? Why can't if the resident calls up and pays for it, why can't they just come out and get it right away? Next available time. Why do they have to wait the first Monday, first Tuesday, first Wednesday of the month?
Well, my thought would be because we only have 1,000 out, I believe. I remember what Obie Lang, remember that name? Lang, you miss him now, don't you? The Obie, no. Obie Lang said that we have 1,000 hours a week to use as employee for Public Works, and they all have functions to do during the week. So this bulk trash pickup is scheduled based on a time and a place during the month where they set aside work hours to do it, as I see it now.
I believe they do it for refrigerators there, don't they? Go and get your refrigerator picked up? You have your option, I think. You pay to have it picked up on your own, as long as it's free. Or you can actually pay to have you, right? So I don't know why, if you're going to do this, why we have to wait for a month.
Well, I think as we're evaluating the whole process, that would be part of the evaluation, right? Do we
I would hope so.
leave it at just Monday, or do we allow at the options that were provided by Mr. Mannion? There are a couple of different municipalities handling it differently. So we'd have to look at all of them and decide what was going to be best for
Yeah,
us,
well,
best on manpower and cost benefit.
Mr. Perone stole my thunder because that was going to be one of my questions. You have to compare apples to apples.
Right.
And I don't know if the ones that were checked pick up their own trash or they pay a private contractor to do it.
Looking at it, but
So,
we have to evaluate it.
So out of curiosity, if you go this route, I don't know if Mr. Mannion brought this up, are trees and grass next?
You gotta love Dale McClure.
Thank you. Again, this is possibly a work in progress anyway, so it's, again, nothing's etched in stone.
But I think it's worth discussing because it's costing us
I agree.
manpower and funds coming out of the general fund to cover bulk items, which if you bought like a gift, if you bought product, from Lowe's, they'll say, well, it's $50 to take away the washer and dryer, where we just pick it up, So
Yeah.
we're covering costs.
All right. Not any further comment. I'm going to go fun stuff. Number 9, presentation of preliminary 2022 Public Works Operations Budget.
So people understand why it's being done differently this year. Mr. Scott from this first ward wanted the different departments to do their preliminary budget and their budget in the committee that they participate in because they feel that they were more familiar with what was actually going on in that particular committee. For example, I don't sit in on safety committee, so I really don't know the workings of the safety committee. So this is why we're starting to do the budgeting reviews.
Mr. Flynn, can I ask a question? Because I didn't see this as an attachment. Is this something we would normally get ahead of time?
During the preliminary right now, this is a general presentation of what they think they need to do and what they want to do. And next month, when we get together for looking at the numbers, then we'll have an attachment that each line item.
Okay.
But this is,
Yes, it's gonna be very
this is
broad.
like a Sears catalog back when we were growing up, your wish list. But every wish list has a price tag attached to it. And, may or may not fit within, money that we collect for taxes.
No, that's 75% correct. What we're going to go over this week in different committees is the operating budget in each department. It's not going to include any capital projects or wish lists. So these are going to be existing services that are being provided today and what those services cost everybody in the borough. Next month, we'll refine these numbers because we'll have more data. And we will also add in capital projects that get proposed by council.
Mr. Perone, when do you have to give, your preliminary, budget?
Okay. All yours.
Okay, so like I said, this is going to be very broad, more telling you the functions of the Public Works Department and our operating expenses and things like that. Public Works Department, as a department, we maintain all the storm sewer facilities in the borough. We maintain the public sanitary sewer collection system. We maintain the borough roads and the public alleys, which is 28 miles of road and 8 miles of alley. We do all the trash collection, recycling, yard waste collection for over 5,000 residences. We also do the fleet maintenance for over 120 borough-owned vehicles and equipment. We do the street sweeping through the borough. We do all the snow removal, and the snow removal also includes the PennDOT roads, 5 miles of PennDOT roads. We maintain the 29 traffic signal intersections in the borough, and we maintain all the street lighting, which is over 1,000 LED lights. Our operating budget to do this is roughly $4.5 million. It's roughly where we've been the last several years. The sources of our revenue to operate comes from street opening permits that we collect. Liquid fuels tax is one of our revenue sources, and then the bulk of it comes from stream protection fees, sewer fund, and the general fund. Just to give you an idea on the cost of trash and recycling, it roughly costs about $500,000 a year for trash recycling. Our fees take them to the dumps, and also the staff, the equipment, the trucks and things like that. So as you can see, it's a pretty expensive operation. Some of the goals that we have for 2021 or 2022, I'm sorry. We want to do a condition assessment of the borough roads and alleys, and I want to develop a annual maintenance program. We've got 36 miles of borough roads and alleys, and I'd like to get something on maybe a 12-year plan or an 18-year plan, so we've got an idea. And I know that a lot of times our road repairs are dictated by utility projects in the borough, whether it's Aqua or Pico or just some of the street openings that are done. So it's going to be a fluid plan, but I'd like to get something developed in the next year. We've got our camera truck upgraded this year. So two of the things we want to do with that is do an inventory and an assessment of the storm sewer facilities, the storm sewer pipes, and also the sanitary sewer collection facility. We also are planning to do a test code tracking system for, so we better know where our man hours are being used and what duties they're doing, and whether it's sewer work or storm work or trash pickup and that type of thing. That's going to be all through ADP. One of the other things, since I came to the borough, the historical records, plans, maps, and things like that is in a plan room at the Public Works Building. I'd like to get those scanned and put in a digital format. In digital format, so we have it in our system, and also tie it into the GIS database so that we have a better access to those plans. And the last sheet basically goes through the our staffing for the last, since 2018. I'm looking to add I was trying to add an inspector this year, but that fell through. So I'm construction inspector. So I'm looking to add a construction inspector in 2022.
Of course, it's all about dollars to me. You glossed over the trash and recycling. Can you go back to that page? I just want to point something out that we were just talking to Mr. McClure about recycling and trash. $500,000 a year, trash and recycling for the entire borough. And you said we had 5,000 houses. If my calculator is right, we get 48 pickups roughly a year. And it's $100 per house per year. You know, you divide 5,000 into 500,000, it's $100. That's kind of a good bargain. It's a ridiculous bargain, actually, because if you go over to Elridge over in West Goshen, you take a truckload, pickup truck full of trash over there, you're going to pay well in excess of $150 just for one dump. Not to say that we have all our employees, all their benefits, and everything else.
That doesn't include their benefits. Just so
Right.
you know.
Well, just, it's a ridiculous number, $100 per house for 5,000 houses.
Five. That's what the information I had. That's what OB had in his records.
I apologize. It's still a bargain. Yeah. That we don't pick up. Yeah, I understand that. So, well, off of the numbers that the director just gave us, I ran the $100 and I almost had a stroke. That's all we're charging, if that's what we're charging, so.
Hey, folks.
Hi.
Keith Karowski, Director of the Parks and Recreation Department. I'm going to skip around a little bit here. Bill, can you go right to page 3, please? I just want to present to you what we're currently working with at Parks and Recreation for the remainder of 2021. I'm going to get into looking what we're going to try and do in 2022. I was asked to put together a presentation of everything we're doing pretty much for the remainder of July. So for basically the second half of the year in Parks and Rec. As you guys know, I'm a department of one right now. I'm trying to keep up with as much as possible as we've been allotted to do as far as the budget and the pandemic is concerned. We've had to move around numerous different events, activities, cancel some, change dates on others. But we still have a pretty good slate of events and activities remaining for the better part of 2021. This page here is the events. Between pop-up events, traditional events, moving our Turk's Head Festival from the middle of July to the middle of September, and that replaced the restaurant festival. We're still trying to, I keep saying we, I'm still trying to do something every month on a larger scale and still provide our normal programming, which we'll see on the next page, moving forward. We're providing classes, camps, again, not in our traditional format, but third-party subs that are coming out and running these different programs for us. And I don't want to get into the numbers or dollars or aspects about this as of just yet, but again, well, we're trying to plan a little something for everyone, whether it be children, teen, adult, you name it. If you look ahead to 2022, Bill, the next frame, it's going to look very similar, but I'll get into that a little bit more in detail when we get back to the core responsibilities of what Parks and Rec should be or what we're looking at it being. These events and activities are, for the most part, traditional events that take place in the borough. Swinging Summer Thursdays, Touch a Truck, Turk's Head Music Festival, Restaurant Festival, Halloween Parade, and so forth. While many of these events I feel confident in organizing as the only person in Parks and Rec, there are several I don't. I've been a part of the borough for 17 years. I've had 3 staff, I've had 2 staff, I've had myself. And when we don't have staff to provide the oversight of these events, whether it be the lead up to the preparation or the day of, I get a little bit apprehensive. Last year during the pandemic, we nixed the Halloween parade, but we had a really cool event out back with a drive-through trunk or treat, and it was really well received and went over great. To plan the Halloween parade, as was promoted, I think, at the meeting in June, I wasn't here, I was on vacation. While in theory is a great idea, and I want to bring events back to the borough, I definitely have my reservations in being able to do that by myself with a bunch of volunteers that show up 20 minutes before the parade starts and telling them what to do. I can get that information to them a little ahead of time, but volunteers aren't obviously like staff where they have certain responsibilities. Like, they don't have to show up at all if they don't want to. We've had that happen on numerous occasions for numerous events. You know, we had 20 people that said they're going to show up for the Abbeys and Friars from Westchester University to help out with the Halloween parade, and 7 show up. You want to scroll on to the next page real quick, Bill? Again, just a number of, similar things that we're doing this year that I plan on doing again next year. And again, I want to have as full a slate as humanly possible. Again, all these would be third-party subcontracted programs, camps, trips, not the events per se. The events we've always done in-house, but that kind of gets me back to, if you can go back to the second slide, Bill. Keep going. Up. And again. And again. There we go. Core responsibilities of the Parks and Rec department. What are they? What does the management, what do we see moving forward for this department? I guess that's kind of the fundamental questions we have to answer before we can start getting into the numbers moving forward. The facilities, working with Public Works, addressing the needs of our parks. You heard Alberto talk, and there's a ton of what Public Works has to do. But in that conversation, there was never mentioned any of the parks. We've got 45 acres of parkland that needs to be taken care of. With that, the capital projects, as most people here are well aware of, we've got a significant project taking place at Marshall Square Park this fall, and a massive project taking place at Everhart Park that we've been working on for the last 16, 18 months. The grant responsibilities that go involved with that, the capital planning, it's a significant role of the director of the department, and something I've been doing as part of the director role since 2009. The use of our public space within our parks. Bernie knows firsthand. Greenfield Park, it's used every night of the week, every day of the week for different sports and athletic leagues. We have the different functions that take place at our parks. I mean, Hoops, Everhart, Marshall Square, the core 3, Greenfield obviously being in there, but we're also running a basketball league at Bayard Rustin Park, and they all need oversight. The communication relationships, which is a big one. I mean, today alone, I've spoken to the university, the chamber, the BID, Westchester Area School District, just keeping up those relationships to make sure those 2 first responsibilities are being taken care of and being addressed. It's one of the core responsibilities that's been the director's role for well before I was here. And then, which brings me to the last responsibility, which is the kind of fundamental question to ask both of the committee and council moving forward is, how do we want to handle these events? How do we want to move forward? In my time here, they've always been in-house. We've been directly hands-on, nuts and bolts, beginning to end, you name it. And I would like to say confidently, we've never had major incidences or occurrences because you have someone at the helm or a few people that are in the upper levels, with a vested interest in making sure these events take place, they take place safely, the general public and the residents have a really good time. And that would be the direct management and oversight of all those traditional events. I won't go over them. You guys know the majority of them. There's another way of doing it. I mean, we haven't done it here. It's not that it can't happen, but there's the indirect. Do we hire XYZ productions to run these events for us and what those costs are? I don't know. We've never done that before. I've done some preliminary research. It all depends on what you guys want to see. If, before we get into the X's and O's, or I should say the dollar amount is kind of where do we see Parks and Rec moving forward in the borough of Westchester? And then we can put those numbers together on what the plan is based on the powers that be. Questions?
Or maybe do twice what you're doing and just you. No. No, thank you. I don't really have any questions.
No question.
Thanks for the presentation. A lot of the outside events, like the Christmas parade was done by the chamber, and the bike race is done by chamber. Yeah, the Halloween parade was done by us, and then we did the restaurant festival, which I think the business community should take a more of a role in that. I mean, with your oversight, because, it is happening in the borough, but, they should take the bulk of that. Chili festivals by
That's
the Rotary.
Rotary, yep.
And then we have the Turk's Head. The Turk's Head, I see as, our event.
It's my favorite. It was the
Yeah,
first one I started
that's-
working
that's
on.
our
17
event.
years ago.
Yeah, the restaurant festival, I think the business community uptown should have a larger vested interest in that one. But as we go through it, doing budgeting and figuring it out, we have to look closer at the management of the outside events. Because we still need them.
Sure.
It's just a different focus on, like, the bar and restaurant people could probably do a very good job with the restaurant festival, with your oversight, that kind of
Again,
thing.
that's the part. Again, would
Yeah.
it be an oversight by the director or this department?
Right.
Are we just hiring XYZ to do it for
Right,
us?
right. So
That's the conversation.
that's a conversation we got to have, yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks a lot, Keith.
I did have I'm sorry, Mr. Flynn brought up some good points. Do we ever look at partnering? So with some, the Rotary, the Chamber, or even a business, autos, or,
Well, we do. I mean, that's where the sponsorships come in. The sponsorship dollars are, again, the Parks and Rec director's role is to gather those sponsorship dollars. My goal every year is 25. And it depends on the number of events we have and depending on amounts of, I'll take every sponsorship dollar I can find. But I take those monies and I divvy them up into the events based on what that Autos BMW is a great example. They've been partners with us for like the last 12 years. We've worked at the hospital, the university, and we worked at numerous on a larger scale and some on smaller scales. And the goal is to get those monies to help support those events, whether that be in the fashion of people, like at the university or at the Westchester Area School District, or in financial dollars. It really all depends. And it's a give and take, because one thing that I've learned in my time here is these are outdoor events and several of them don't have rain dates. So how do you make up to your sponsor that gave you $12,000 and the restaurant festival's canceled? Or, this back in the day was Super Sunday, or it was one of the Swinging Summer Thursdays. We can't make that up. We try and involve them in something else to, make amends, but it doesn't always work out that way.
okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, thanks, Keith. And next, we're going to have the presentation of preliminary 2022 stream protection operations budget. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Chantal Fieldhouse, 511 North Franklin. I just want to add to Keith, as a resident of this community for 8 years, coming from another country, not knowing anything about Westchester, fell in love with this community because of these events and don't want to see them gone. I think Keith does a fabulous job, and I don't know how he runs a department by himself. How over the last several years with 2 people is a big job. Personally, in my opinion, that getting a third party is going to cost more money than having more staff to run these events. And I know that residents want these events. I remember when I first started coming to council meetings several years ago, there was a big discussion about the chili cook-off and how much how much the Rotary paid us and how much the event actually cost us. And there were a handful, probably more, residents in here saying that they wanted to use, they would be totally fine using their taxpayer dollars to offset that cost because they did not want to see that event go to Kennett or wherever else. And so all of these events, I know that 2020 and 2021 is both odd years, but I just want to see these events back and thriving in, you know, their great fashion that they are. And it's sad that we're not having all of them this year. Totally understand where events were canceled. But I just wanted to say that I want council to just find a way to make sure that these events stay.
Mr. Fieldhouse, I agree with you. A lot of the events that we have in the borough are the fabric of our town. But just like everything else in the world, you know, things have to be rearranged a little bit and done by maybe some other people that have a stakeholder in it. Like, for example, the restaurant festival. You know, Keith has to get all the people for the restaurant festival, the vendors, the people that are cooking, shut the streets down, do the tables, mark the road. I mean, if you've been there, you've seen it. The restaurant business and bar business in the borough may be able to partner with the borough and take over a large part of the responsibility to do something like that. You know, because that's their industry, and Keith could work right along with them as part of the borough liaison to that festival. You know, that's important. Turk's Head is very important because that's homegrown, you know, down at Everhart Park. The Halloween parade, everyone looks for the Halloween parade. Christmas parade is done by the chamber. You know, so, and Chili Festival, you know, Rotary does all that. So it's just isolate a few things that we may need to start partnering with the businesses and the residents and the borough in order to make it work properly. Yeah.
You know, and I get absolutely, you know, reevaluating things, taking this year to reevaluate going forward. I just want to make sure that the events come back and partnering or working with another group if that makes sense. And I get what you're saying, the business development group, you know, for the restaurant fest. I've been either at most of the events or volunteering. So I did volunteer and worked Restaurant Fest, I guess 2 years ago when it ran, or I mean, either in attendance or volunteering at these events. So I am fully aware of the behind the scenes that goes in, and a member of the Parks and Rec Commission. So I do see both sides.
Thank you very much. I apologize for not seeing you walk up to the lectern, so thank you. And now we're going to hear stream protection operations budget with Will Williams.
Good evening, everyone. So I wanted to start by just reminding everyone the purpose of the stream protection fee. Up on the right side, you'll see the language from the ordinance that dictates what the funding can be used for. On the left, this is what that actually translates to day to day. Obviously, that money is used to run the program. The next three items, MS4, are pollution reduction plans, TMDL, which is total maximum daily load of pollutants in our waterways, ID, D, and E, that's illicit discharge detection and elimination. That is our regulatory compliance component. That was the reason this program was created. And that needs to be sort of our compass for spending. All of those plans and reports run on 5-year cycles, and they come due in 2023. And we have some work to do. And that work takes apart those last 3 bullets. We need to know what projects we need to do to meet those regulations. And a lot of times they fall into 2 buckets: maintaining the existing stormwater system and capital improvements to the MS4 system. And lastly, Al mentioned in Public Works, there are functions in other departments that, like street sweeping, which occurs in Public Works, that stream protection fee can pay for. So we occasionally have transfers from stream protection fee to those other departments. Next slide. Here's a very preliminary draft look at our operating budget. We're projecting $1.1 million in revenue. That's about 90 to 93% collection rate. We have one big collections issue. Personnel cost is about $150,000. That's admin and street sweeping as well. The admin is at its lowest cost, at its lowest point in all 5 years of the program, which is freeing up more money for all of the actual work. Programmatic admin, that is the tools we need day to day to manage this program. Professional fees, again, this is really focused on regulatory compliance where we need help. Again, we have an unfortunately large legal budget still. Bond debt, that's from a number of stormwater management projects that were completed in 2016, all of which are part of those pollution reduction plans I mentioned. And we anticipate about $170,000 in maintenance to the existing MS4 system, which leaves us with about $500,000 for capital projects, which we don't have exactly spelled out yet. But again, a lot of that will be dictated by the pollution reduction plans that are coming due. And this last slide is the same information for those that like the more visual explanations.
Anyone, any comments or questions from people at the meeting? Yes, not.
I do have a question. Mr. Williams, the rain gardens that we have around the borough.
Yep.
I know we have a person that plants indigenous, water resistant stuff in there and cleans them out. We bid that out during the year.
Yep.
Does that come out of stream protection as well?
Yep, that's in that, that would be under infrastructure maintenance.
Okay.
170 grand. Pay about $25,000 for that contract. The idea came up in the sustainability committee about sort of adopt a rain garden program. We have plenty of people in the neighborhoods that are willing to look after those and do so already. And I'd like to sort of formalize that, take care of some liability issues to having residents work in our facilities, and give them an allowance for planting, have occasional oversight by a professional landscaper, but really tap into some of the passion and resources we have in our community and save us a couple bucks in the meantime.
The rain gardens for 2022. I know you mentioned you didn't have a projection of capital projects. Are we still installing rain gardens throughout the borough?
Yeah, we will. I think they'll continue to be an important piece of our pollution reduction plans. There's a lot of bang for the buck, actually. But I see why you're asking. Every time you install one, there's a maintenance burden that comes along with it, and we have to think about a sustainable way to maintain. So that is part of trying to implement a different model. The only ones we currently have planned that are in our plans that we haven't completed yet are down at Green Valley. We got a grant to do that, most of that work, and it looks like some of it will be done this year and some of it will be next year.
Like, for example, if you build a building, Mr. Perone's very well much aware of this one. You should always, there's a square foot price that you have to put aside each year for maintenance.
Mhm.
Then you don't have any preventative maintenance, which we're not very, very good at doing that right now.
Yeah.
I think that's an important thing with these rain gardens. $170,000 a year to maintain basically the rain garden. So it's a thought.
No, that's for the entire stormwater management.
Oh,
system.
so entire. Okay,
Yeah.
I
Our
apologize.
contract right now is about $25,000
Okay.
for the existing rain gardens. And, again, I think we can easily cut that in half if find a different model.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, item number 12, discuss larvicide program.
Thanks, Don. I just really want to brainstorm a bit with regards to the larviciding program and some questions. I know you've been engaged in it a bit. Mike Pro and I, we had a conversation. Mike, can you give just a background of that, the larviciding program?
Yeah, so 3-4 years ago, was called a movement amongst around the borough not to spray. So we started getting, I guess, mosquito dunks from the county for free. We distributed them. At the same time, we came to realize that there were hundreds of our storm sewer inlet boxes that were holding water at the bottom because the bottom of the inlet was not level with the pipe that was the outfall. So over the years, we have been adding concrete to those structures. I'm not sure how many are left. I don't think there's a whole heck of a lot of them left. But before they were done, we put mosquito dunks in there. We also, a few years back, identified the low-lying areas, like say along Goose Creek, when there's heavy rains, there's some areas that drain well, other places that don't. So you have some ponding or pooling, what have you. Public Works goes and puts, dunks in those areas every so often to keep the mosquito larvae. This year, currently, around Borough Hall over the past 2 months, or a month and a half, I guess, you'd see a bunch of little say 12-inch by 6-inch dunks wrapped in with somebody's name on them, sitting out at the back door. So Will Williams took on the task of seeing if anybody who wanted them, residents, could come and stop by and pick them up themselves for people who wanted to put dunks in their backyard or low-lying areas, what have you. So we've been doing that. So that's what we've been doing over the past 3-4 years to keep the county from spraying. This was 1 year we weren't so successful. They came in and sprayed, but last year they weren't here at all. So whatever we did last year, I guess, was okay.
COVID.
Oh, it was still raining during COVID.
They had bigger fish to fry, as it were. And right now, I mean, one of the major problems with the larviciding program is folks can't. We've talked about doing an adopt-a-block program, similar to like the trash program, but the public can't apply the larvicide on public land, so that has to be done by public employees. And then we have so much private property, so the question therefore is, how do we get residents to larvicide themselves on their own properties, because we can't have our volunteer residents go on to private properties in order to larvicide other people's properties without their permission. So it becomes a bit challenging. With regards to the public larviciding policy, is there a particular interval by which we go around to all of the known and identified public areas and larvicide those memorialized in a public works policy? Okay. Is that happening, Al? Do you know if there's like a regular like goal by which like 30 days? Excellent. So, I mean, that sounds like got a good public policy going, as long as that's executed well. So, to Mike Peron's point, there was sort of a rising several years ago. People don't want to get sprayed. They don't want poison on themselves, on their children. I'll speak myself too. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. So I'm not coming to you with the necessarily solution, but we do have 7 ward captains ready to go. We have about 20 other volunteers ready to go, trying to find a way to be useful in mitigating the issues. Primarily, it would appear on private property. So the question is, how do we then do that? Now, Mike, you and I, Will Williams and I, at one point, we discussed, some sort of reporting mechanism to report to building and housing, and then there'd be some sort of violation letter. It seems a little abrasive to me. Plus, you can't necessarily see somebody's whole property from the streetscape. So, while for offenders that are repeat offenders or take care of their mosquito issues, violations may be the best course of action. What can we do with our volunteers that are ready to go right now to mitigate those issues with larviciding? We've contemplated going door to door. Not a big deal going door to door. I hit basically every door in the borough here during the election. If they're there, they'll let you know. Offering free dunks, education, having those conversations with people door to door, kind of that's the most direct way. There could be drone kind of surveying, high quality pictures taken of areas, drill down on a regular interval. Just thinking about creative ways to utilize our amazing volunteers that are ready to go, looking for a way to help make sure that we get sprayed with poison.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, we had a very large public relations blitz for the mosquitoes or the dunks, that Margaret Hutchins, brought to our attention. I believe we had door hangers. We had the thing about the dunks. I mean, private property, we're not allowed on private property, and they're not allowed to do anything on public property either. So during the election, educational pieces always work the first time. If they see it 2 or 3 times, they just discard it as, I've already read that. The volunteers can go around and use the same door hangers. I think we probably still have the print, for the door hangers. And, to Al's point earlier tonight, there's 5,000 properties. So we need 5,000 door hangers. We're only picking up trash to 3,000 properties at $3.47 a pickup. But it's okay. But the educational piece, we also had problems with West Nile. I mean, I was tracking the people at Greenfield. I was spraying myself with DDT, I think it was called, because I was down there working so much, and they had traps down there collecting West Nile mosquitoes. I haven't heard a word from the county and haven't seen anything down there in the past 2 years. I think there's only been one West Nile report in Kennett Square, 2021. It doesn't seem to be being reported as much as it did in the past. But the educational piece, I think, is big, and they're carrying, the hang the door thing on the doorknob. They have a bag full of dunks. If somebody says they want them, you just hand it to them. It's a program that the volunteers could do, So
you said we had those doors.
they were green, and I believe they had a mosquito on them. And
I
Diane LeBold had them.
I might have them,
Yeah, so we had them.
because I had a big box of them.
Yeah, we did have them. We used to go around and put on people's doorknobs, you know?
Hopefully we can work together to figure out a program to use the resources and the passion that we have and mitigate the issue primarily on private property. Then and also make sure that we're executing our public property policy. Well, do we actually have like a document? Is there like a policy document, what we do? Ad hoc or? So that, you know, something like that might be good if we can develop a formal policy and add it as a required duty executed by Public Works at a particular interval, then we can make sure that it's being executed. Highest ideal there.
But the one thing when Mike Taggart was here, he was pretty much doing a lot of the siding himself, and he was finding places we never thought of. And he developed a means where he would suspend the dunk like a sewer, so it wouldn't get washed away with the rain. The one other thing, I'm going to be a little disjointed here. One other thing, I guess it was about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe more. We had block captains, and my perception was that it just kind of fizzled out on its own after about 2 years, and it just didn't seem like we were doing anything. The other thing is, or one other thing, the whole thing behind this is to reduce standing water, and a lot of people like to have water up in gutters, you know, with leaves and stuff like that. They were the ones that was hard to get to. And then you had last year and this year where mosquitoes normally don't like me, but last year I've never been bitten so much in my life. Yet on our block, everyone's real careful about the standing water. So where are they coming from? I don't know. So, I mean, I don't know if we needed, you know, formal policy, because you got to be flexible with it. It's like you just can't put, well, you can, but you can put dunks in every 30 days. But what if we're having like a long dry spell, putting dunks in there? I'm just throwing things out.
Yeah.
Because I've been there already. So it's just
They only
food
last,
for thought.
they only last 30 days, right? I mean, yeah, if it's dried up, it's dried up.
Well, they'll disintegrate,
Right.
but they're still functioning. Yeah, they last about 30 days. I guess my other issue is possible, you know, duplication of effort with what we're doing. So they're just my thoughts.
Okay, fair enough. And do we have some sort of inventory to identify all the kind of problem areas? That's something maybe on public property, they could, without actually doing it themselves. Yeah.
You know, another.
Through all those old files.
And actually, a couple of years ago, if I was surprised how many emails and calls I would get, people reporting standing water, didn't know what to do about it. And even like Scott Zukin's property, someone was up in the parking garage and saw it was completely wet. And so I called Scott. He was real cool about it. But next day, water's all gone. So, you know, it's in their minds.
Oh, well, let's continue to work together towards some solutions that make that.
That education piece, there was no dates on it, and it gave all the information you talked about. And if Don has some, I'll pick a couple of them up and get them to you so you can actually, and give them to Will. So it refresh the memory of what we did.
Okay.
The other thing, there might be, because you remember Megan from Public Works, she handled some of the door knockers. There might still be a box or two of those things lying around somewhere.
Okay.
And like I said, like Bernie said, they're not dated, so they were good door hangers too.
Is it okay if I send some questions, some of the things that we talked about that we weren't sure about, today, and some answers? Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, any comments, questions from people in the audience? Okay. Item number 13, approve the June 2021 minutes. They seemed fine to me.
Questions?
3-0. And with my apologies to the next committee, we're adjourned.